When I'm sitting in my chair, my famous chair here, now it's, part of the whole story, thinking about who do I want to have next as a guest on my show, eventually, no, the first name that comes to my mind is Brian White. Because why? Because he's got a lot of great information, and from time to time, he's amusing. And who wouldn't want that? Brian, glad to have you back.
Thank you, Randy. A pleasure as sometimes.
Well, there you go. All right, so you know what to do. Hit the like button and all that kind of jazz. Subscribe, and of course, follow My Tesla Weekend wherever he goes. At 4K Podcast would be the X handle. That would be an X handle now.
Mm-hmm.
X
yeah.
handle.
I think it's an axe handle.
An axe handle, previously known as Twitter. All right.
Yeah, because I've got an X to grind.
Yeah, an X to grind. Okay, so okay. We're going to take a trip around the world. We want to find out what's happening. There's so many factories now. Tesla has factories and distribution centers and showrooms and repair centers. And I mean, they have buildings everywhere. They're just massive all over the world. And we're not going to talk about every single one of those. We're just going to hit the high points. Let's start with what in the world is going on with Fremont with yet another tent.
Oh, yes. So the tent part, we're not sure, but we know what they generally do in those. More assembly. And oh, how unprofessional a tent. Guys, this has been used in aerospace and really every industry. I don't know if you know, but that's where even the lighter-than-air craft were stored at times. It's just a thing. In Fremont, we also have a big excavation. They're putting in new heavy footings for what will be another Giga press. Right. That's what they need in order to have more castings coming out. And the Model 3 doesn't have the kind of castings that you see in the Model Y, but it's about to. Almost as if there's a big refresh that will need them. So yeah, Fremont looking good.
Now Fremont is no longer just this several city block area that used to be other car companies many decades ago. Now the company is spreading out blocks away and other blocks away. They're putting up all these other facilities. Have you seen anything yet about what those places are going to do, like build robots or anything like that?
No, we haven't seen what they're actually doing. We know some of it's got to be parts and logistics because they're just out of space at Fremont. As huge as it was the largest factory in the country before Tesla took over, and now it's substantially bigger. And if you look at the drone footage, you'll see they're just out of space. Now, the property was larger when NUMMI had it. They had a section to the side there that they sold off separately, which is now all apartments and condos. But they have vastly more of the space in use. So I think some of those are going to be logistics. We've also got just down the road, that street there is Cato Road. It's on Cato Road. So the battery facility is just down the street a ways where they're doing that because they just didn't have the space on site. And yes, they've got other things that could be storage. And for that matter, just down the street from Fremont, we've got the Lathrop MegaPack Factory,
right,
which is, by all accounts, still ramping.
Yes. So my understanding, and I don't know if you have anything up more newer than this, I did put out a note to Ferguson, yes,
Bradford
Ferguson.
Rebellionaire.
I did put a note out to him, and he's going to get back to me shortly. Have you heard any more about the delivery times for some of this equipment that is necessary to get the second phase going?
I have not heard anything about that. I consider Rebellionaire to be the definitive source of information on MegaPacks. Nobody else is really digging into it, certainly not at the depth that they are. So a good resource there.
Now, you don't have to go too far up the road from there to get to Reno or Sparks. Which one should we call it, by the way?
Reno.
Call it Reno? Okay.
Yeah. Just call it Nevada. Keep it vague. It's horse country. They've got a lot of wild horses out there. You see them in the B-roll, and if you go out there, you'll see them. They're big giant prairie rats is what they are. They're wild and uncontrolled.
I see. So
Do not approach them.
this is my favorite factory, by the way. For those, I think my crowd knows because this is where we're going to make 5 gigawatts of batteries, and this is where we're going to make semi trucks, and this is where so many cool things are going to be happening in Sparks or Reno or Nevada. Have they?
Did you mean 5 terawatts?
No, 5 gigawatt. 500. I meant 500 gigawatts.
Okay.
Half a terawatt. Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Thank you for correcting me. Yes. All right. So
5 gigawatts.
Have we put any spades in the ground or shovels?
No. No. There is a new drone pilot who is looking to be doing that. I've reached out and tried opening that channel of communication, but that was just yesterday, so I haven't heard back yet. Nevada is slow moving, and I think part of the problem is attracting talent in the desert, specifically the high desert, is challenging. And until there's more than enough 2170s, they will have difficulty providing enough cells to put into the mega battery that goes into the semi truck.
Right.
So that is a bottleneck. So that tells me we are still more than 1 year away from volume production of the semi. Now, the pilot line they have there, if you look at it on a map, you'll see the giant footprint, but just outside the security gate is 2 other buildings there. Those are listed as like shipping and receiving. That's where the semi is currently made.
I see.
That's where the delivery event was held. And that facility could easily make 5 or 10 a day. Why they don't is a question only they can answer, but I believe it's just not, they're just not ready. They want to wait until it's time and then go whole hog into it, full steam as it were, and get those out. So we're still waiting on that, and we're waiting on Panasonic at that location to do their expansion as well. I assume it will be done at the same time. It would only make sense.
Right.
So we shall see.
So now we'd have to get in a plane from here, but we could get in our little airplane, and we could our electric airplane, and fly off to Buffalo or to yes,
Sure.
Yeah, Buffalo. There's a song about Buffalo.
We'll shuffle off to Buffalo.
I'm not going to sing, but I could.
Yeah. So in Buffalo, that's where they make the Superchargers.
Yes.
And they, for a while, had data labeling there, which was a remarkably good job for an entry-level, really data entry kind of thing. It's not skilled labor, and I believe the worst ever was that they started people at $24 an hour, which in Buffalo is decent.
Yeah.
But it's mind-numbing work. So in Buffalo, they're making the Superchargers. They're making them fast, and they're making them, they generate the 3s and 4s is what they're making. And I'd seen people critical, all these chargers, that's great, but these are clearly being made in Shanghai. They're clearly Chinese. China's got a Supercharger factory, but they are different factories. I talked with the Northwest Regional Director of Supercharger, whatever, the guy who picks locations and gets them built. And I said, what's the difference between the Shanghai Supercharger and the Buffalo Supercharger? And he said, I couldn't tell you. I've never seen the Chinese version. We do not use them. Their power's different. Their grid's different.
Yeah.
We don't use them. So the good news in Buffalo is all those lofty targets that they had from when it was a Solar City factory to get all these jobs, all this capital expenditure, they've blown past it. They did have the delay from the shutdown, where every company that was on that program was given an extra year or whatever to hit their targets, and they did hit their targets because, of course they did. They need all the help they can get.
So is there any solar activity going on there? Are they building any solar walls solar roofs or?
Nothing too exciting. At the California Takeover, Tesla did have a booth. They did have an official presence.
Wow.
They brought in a cool little shed, built it. It's got the solar panels all over it. They are still aggressively courting new customers for solar. They're willing to do anything to get it on your roof except give you a price that doesn't make you physically ill.
I see. So, all right. So if we go from there and we continue around the world, I guess we could go over to Berlin, where permits, I guess, and all kinds of paper must be flowing like crazy in Berlin right now, since They've announced that they're going to expand that facility dramatically.
Well, in order to get the paper for the permits are so voluminous that they had to cut down all those trees first. And they went ahead and did that so they could file the permits. They're always expanding. They're always doing stuff. And I love it. Anytime there's a new factory, the drone pilots are asked, you're doing so well with this, you're getting so many views, what are you going to do when the construction is finished? Construction doesn't finish, my friend. That's the secret. So in Berlin, they've expanded. They've got a big recycling center in the northeast. They've got a commuter rail line that goes straight to the factory. They've got solar canopies over the superchargers there. They've got their 4680 building should begin early production this year still, I believe. And that's going to be another big one. And in terms of where they're at with the expansion, I think it's all their preliminary paperwork's been filed. I think what they're waiting on is their own internal final design so that they can say, this is what we're going to build there and this is how we're going to build it. And I'm just going to tell you now, it's going to be the compact. Because nothing else makes sense. I've heard people say, well, no, they'll build the Model 3. Nah, Shanghai can provide enough Model 3s. They always have. Why would that change with the Highland, which is going to be more efficient and effective? And there are a lot of people who would buy the 3 who would rather buy a compact. It just makes sense. So, well, they could build semis. Master Plan Part 3 is all about extreme scale. The semis will come when it's time to build the semis. It's not, the compact is what's coming next.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked at all to see that the semi-truck factories, our large truck factories, are always a separate facility, like they're doing here. I mean, it's not separate, but it's part of Sparks as opposed to being part of Austin. That's really it's really a completely different business, and there's very little crossover in the makers of large trucks with auto. Even Mercedes-Benz spun off Daimler as a separate deal. So it's a different market, different folks, different buyers.
Interesting.
So you might see different factories.
Yeah, and certainly they wouldn't need to be at the same location. So then if we're talking Berlin, I guess we should head to the Far East.
There you go.
Shanghai, not a whole lot to see there. The land is exhausted. There is no more place to build stuff. We are still seeing the drone pilots are getting a lot of interference with their GPS signals. There are cars there that they don't want them to see. Now, something I said on a video on my channel that your viewers have not yet seen is that there was a video that was shared with me by a gentleman who did not permit me to publish it. It was for my information only, where we saw a parking lot full of what we believe are Model 3 Highlands. And they certainly look like it, but it was a parking lot. It probably, from the looks of it, had 100 or two, maybe 300 at most. So the launch of the Model 3 Highland is imminent, and if that's the case, that pulls the pressure off a little bit, needing to expand because they can get more volume from the same floor space, more production.
Any kind of evidence with regard to the MegaPack factory over in that neighborhood?
Excellent question. No, and we didn't expect it. Okay. When Shanghai opened their Supercharger factory over there, there was no announcement. It just was done. It's just done. We've already did it. It's done. The same with their off-site logistics facility. It's this big, giant building that has loading docks on the ground floor and the second floor.
Wow.
Never saw an announcement. It's never even been officially acknowledged, but one of the drone pilots drove past it, and there's a big sign out front that says Tesla. So we flew over it, and sure enough, that's a Tesla warehouse. So no news is not bad news in China.
Yeah.
They run things.
There was no announcement of Lathrop until it was almost done, until it was almost producing.
Yeah. These are things that most companies do most of the time. Tesla is unique in that they love to announce things, sometimes centuries before they materialize.
Well, there are some people that don't realize the power of PR compared to the power of advertising. I won't name any names. They're people I actually like and admire, but they seem to fail to realize that Elon Musk being on the air every day in the headlines almost every day. I mean, today he's going to have an operation because he wants to be in a fight with another mega billionaire. But before he can be in the fight, he has to have an operation. Well, that almost took all of the air out of the announcement that Zach Kirkhorn was leaving. It was a question of which one of those was going to be the top headline.
So bizarre. So crazy. So to wrap up Shanghai, we're not seeing anything going on. That doesn't mean anything isn't going on. It means that their data flow is different than what we might want or expect from other Tesla facilities.
So now if we switch over to South Asia, we've had so many headlines over the last 5 days. I mean, we know about conversations that are taking place in India, buildings that are being bought in India, but then we have Malaysia coming in and saying, boy, these guys are so super fast, we had no idea. And then we have Indonesia saying, but wait, we want to have a headline too.
Yes, and Thailand's sales are going great. South Korea, they sold out, I want to say, 2 boatloads in the weekend that Model 3 or Y sales were opened up, whichever it was. The expansion is going crazy. Where's it going to come next? How many are going to come next? The good news is they still have the capital. As much as they spend it, as fast as they spend it, the pile isn't shrinking.
Right.
Which means they can, and I assume will, add 1 or 2 more to the pile by the end of the year. I expect to see the Berlin announcement come, and I expect to see 1 more in addition to Mexico. And my money is Southeast Asia, whether it's India or Indonesia or somewhere.
Okay, well, now come full circle, come back to America, or to the Americas. We have Mexico and we have Austin.
Yes, Tex-Mex, if you will.
There you go.
I don't know if you've ever been to Texas, but they've got some really great food.
I have driven the entire state of Texas.
Oh my goodness,
Yes,
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, really, the whole thing. Yes.
That sounds truly unpleasant. It is, and not because of Texas. It's just a very large state.
Large and flat, and not much to see. Yeah.
Through a lot of it. Austin is not flat.
No.
But it is large. Dallas is only 2 hours from Austin, but so is the other side of Austin from Austin. So so what's going on in Texas? If you look at the drone footage again, you'll see just nothing but endless activity everywhere you look all the time. That largest factory by square footage in the world is expanding. It is moving. It is going to be about 1/8 larger than it is now, because it's moving another, hundreds of feet south. Then you've still got the cathode building, which is nearing completion. You've got a building next to it called the die shop, which for the life of us, we cannot figure out what that means, and no one will tell us, not even the inside sources for the guys on the ground there. And then they've got a new crash test facility in Texas. Wow. I don't know if you knew that was going in.
No.
Oh, because they started building this thing, and the foundation comes 10 feet up from the ground. And you're like, that's weirdly structural. And then on top of it, they just put a tin roof. And you're like, what are they? And then you notice there's a channel cut down the middle of it where the pulley system goes. And you're like, oh. And they've already started putting some old cars next to it that are clearly not operational to calibrate the smash-up machine.
I see.
Oh.
Wow.
That's got to be a fun job.
Well, and it's only going to be of value for another decade because there's not going to be any crashes anymore once FSD is on every car.
Yes, but they would keep it around because, I don't know if you know this, crashing cars is fun.
There you go.
In a controlled environment with little dummies in them, very fun. We're not getting rid of this program. So Texas is still moving forward, and there's tons of expansion everywhere. And there's more buildings going up, and there's more permits that have been filed. They're building a parking structure. Everywhere you look in Texas, it's being expanded.
And I read some headline this morning that said that like a Cybertruck a day is leaving the factory.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And to me, it doesn't matter because we just know it's done. We know it's done. We know it's happening, and it's exciting. That's all I care about. Whether we get to 1 a day a week ago or a week from now, it's all in a year. It won't matter.
That's right. That's true.
If you look back at the Model 3, Y, any of the ramps, just got to be patient.
That leaves
and then Mexico, that leaves Mexico. What's going on in Mexico? Yeah, I'd like to know.
Yeah.
I do not know. If
So,
you know.
So I've had this fantasy. That
That's weird. You usually don't share those with me during the recordings.
So I have this fantasy that Tom says, I want to build the first phase of Mexico faster than Shanghai. And that has to, and the day that the clock goes to the first second is the day that they put the first shovel in the ground, right? So if you plan everything really, really, really well, so you get all your plans, you get all your suppliers, everybody is 100% committed to their delivery schedule and when they're going to do what they're going to do. You got all the permits, there's no questions. So that the day you hit the ground, you maybe can do it in less than 9 months and beat the world record for putting up a massive factory.
I would say it's not going to happen, and if Tom wants that to happen, he would get pushback from absolutely everyone, and he would lose that battle. Because as much fun as it is, it is a logistical nightmare. It's not 3 months harder; it's 10 times harder. It's a choreographed dance that would require too much perfection, leave too little margin for error, and even if everything worked perfectly, it would still end up costing double what it would if you built it on a more normal schedule. Okay. Because you're going to end up paying for expedite on things that you shouldn't have to. So that is an aspirational goal. That is a very a pace like that is a very Tom Jew thing to say. But I don't think that it's something that would come to fruition.
I didn't say that he said it. I said I had this fantasy.
No. But that's very much what he would like. Say. That is, I mean, we've heard him say he wants it to be done quicker than China. Yeah. But okay, that might also be some backdoor hubris where he's saying, "Ain't nobody beat my factory. My factory was the quickest."
Right. Well, that would be interesting one way or the other. And if it turns out that is the thing that they're going to do and they do it, I will bring my favorite, my only hat. I don't wear hats, but I have a Maui hat. And I will present it to you for munching. Well, that's right. This is my show, not your show. So it's up to me to conclude it or to ask you another question, right? I guess that's how it works. Well, okay. So we've been around the world. Have we missed any places?
Not really. There's always other little places that could pop up. But if we miss one in the comments, you got to tell Randy. You got to leave a note for him.
Yes.
And we can discuss that next time.
That's right. Absolutely true. Well, hey, you know what? As always, Brian, this is the right side of Brian. Possibly even in the same day, the Wang side of Brian will be showing up and doing his. But he's commonly also right. So how does that work? I don't know.
Me and Brian Wang should do a head-to-head show called Whiter Wang.
Yes, you should. You should absolutely do.
That's a terrible idea.
It could be an ongoing show.
Yeah. Two Brians, Whiter Wang.
All right. Wow. Well, Brian, as always, it is amusing and sometimes educational on the show. I'm sure we'll do it again soon, and thank you as always for coming.
I enjoy doing these. Thank you, Randy.
All right, and to all of you out there, it has been great talking to you.
Click the link below to get your paperback, Kindle or audiobook now.